Very good. Thank you for all coming today. I want it in stereo. I'll do it too. Okay, this is in stereo today, so double that. Which one do you want?
That one's better.
Okay. Excellent. So I have worked a lot in prisons throughout the world, not just in Australia, been in Changi many times, in the United Kingdom as well. And I'll never forget one of the first times I taught meditation in prison in Australia. There was a high security prison, and there was a number in the jail. It was only a small prison, maybe 110 prisoners in the jail, and over 100 came to my meditation class. Everybody wanted to come, and that inspired me. I never thought that prisoners wanted to learn meditation that much. So I started talking to them about meditation. And after only 5 minutes, one of the prisoners stood up to ask a question. Now, this was a high security prison. And these prisoners were huge, much bigger than me. And when somebody that big stood up, I'd always stop and say, "Yes, sir, what can I do for you?" And he asked this question. These are stories you cannot make up. He said, "Is it really true that through meditation you can levitate over walls?" And then I found out why so many prisoners had come to learn meditation. They thought that by meditating they could escape. They actually said that. So I had a great time talking with some of the prisoners, but I did get one of my best comments, my best pieces of praise ever in my life. Now, I do receive a lot of praise, but this was one which I will always remember till the time I die. It was when a prison officer called me at my monastery in Australia. And he said, "Why can't you come back to teach in my prison again?" And I said, "Look, I have so many other duties now, traveling over the world, coming to the BF, the Brahm Center, and this place too. So many things I have to do." I said, "I'm sending other monks to the prison." And the prison officer said, "No, we want you, Ajahn Brahm, no one else." And that's when I asked, "Why me?" And this is when he gave this wonderful piece of praise. He said that he'd been working in the prison service in the city of Perth, Western Australia, all his life. He was about to retire, and he said he'd noticed something unique, which he'd never seen anywhere else before, that all the prisoners who came to my class, once released, never went back to prison again. And he said, "Please come back." Now that was something which I knew was very special. Somehow you managed to touch the hearts and the mind of people in jail so that when they were released, they managed to integrate, get a job, get a life back, and be successful and happy again. And a few minutes later, I will tell you the reason why I think it worked and why these little attitudes can lessen the prison population of Singapore and give lives back to people who've lost them. And they do lose their lives in jail. Many people who go to prison, they lose their wives. Most wives will not wait for their husband to come out. They move on. They get another partner. So it's not just a sentence they do in jail. It's a sentence where they lose their family and their children and their money and their career. And when they come out afterwards, it's incredibly difficult. The sentence doesn't stop once you walk out of jail. But many of the things which I teach the prisoners, you can give them the lessons, but they have to integrate them, understand them, and then practice them. And that is the job of such things called meditation. In order to understand how a person feels, you have to understand how you feel. And that is the purpose of the mindfulness and the wisdom which is generated through meditation. And this is supposed to be a workshop, so I've been instructed by my boss. Where's she gone? No, she's a nice boss. To do a little meditation to begin with. Some talks, questions and answers, a little bit of meditation to finish off today. So you too can learn just the attitudes which are required to move out of the many prisons of life, not just the ones with bars. So this is a simple 10-minute meditation. It's not going to be long. You don't have to be an expert. Very simple, very effective, but giving you an exercise which will help you not just in meditation, also in your life. So no need to change your position. Just as you're sitting down now, close your eyes. You can change your position if you want, but it doesn't matter. And with your eyes closed, it means that your brain is not taken up with processing visual data. You have more space in your brain to feel sensations in the body, which means that you can find out how to relax your body more and make it even more comfortable. So with your eyes closed, if you want to move your legs, move them. If you want to wiggle your bottom, fidget it, please do so. I'm fidgeting my bottom. And where you put your hands is up to you, wherever it feels comfortable. And how your back is straight, bent, that too is up to you. I am a well-respected meditation master. I know what I'm talking about. It works if you just listen to your body and relax it as it wants to be relaxed, rather than following some diagram you've seen in a book. And also, it is good to keep your eyes closed. I just came back from Hong Kong. They say some teachers there ask people to keep their eyes open. Why close your eyes? You close your eyes because when everyone's got their eyes closed, it means you can scratch any part of your body, no one is looking. You can pick your nose, fingers in your ear. Get comfortable, for goodness sake. Now, the exercise I'm going to teach you now is very helpful many times in the day, but especially at the beginning of your meditation. Now I'm going to ask you to do the 2 shopping bags exercise. Imagine, use your powers of imagination to feel as if you've been holding 2 heavy shopping bags. If you haven't been shopping, suitcases will do. One in the left hand, one in the right hand. And they're really heavy, and you've been carrying them for a long time. You've all done that in the past, so you know if you carry shopping bags, which are heavy for too long, your arms ache and your shoulders hurt. So imagine your shoulders aching and hurting, and the shopping bags are really heavy. Imagine that. And then you imagine looking at the shopping bag in your left hand, and you can read on the outside of that shopping bag the 4 letters P-A-S-T, the past. Because that shopping bag is filled with all of your memories, both good and bad, all the things which have hurt you, troubled you, and even the good memories too. All in that shopping bag which is so heavy and you've been carrying it around for such a long time. And then you imagine the shopping bag in your right hand that has letters on the outside too, which read F-U-T-U-R-E. That's your future. And you look at that shopping bag, that carries all your dreams, all your anxieties, all your plans, all the business you have to do later. That's in a shopping bag in your right hand. Now, if you can visualize that, imagine that, put attention on it, you are making a connection. Those bags represent your real past and real future, which because you carry them around for far too long without resting, it means your heart is tired and even your brain aches. It cannot work to its full potential because it's tired carrying around the pain, difficulties, worries of the past, carrying around the anxieties and plans and dreams and hopes of the future, carrying them until it wears you out. So imagine shopping bags. Now focusing on the shopping bag in your left hand, which represents your past. You can imagine lowering that bag to the ground. Imagine it as best you can. And when that heavy shopping bag with the 4 letters P-A-S-T on the outside meets the floor, all the weight vanishes. It disappears. And that allows you to let go of the handle which attaches you to the past. You can let it go. Move your hand and arm up to your side, putting distance between you and your past. You've let go of the past in this visual imagery. And now you focus on the shopping bag in your right hand, representing your future, which is really heavy, tires you, stops you being free. And you imagine lowering that to the ground. And that too, when it meets the floor, the weight, the burden, the heaviness disappears, allowing you again to detach from your idea of the future, moving your hand and arm up to your side so you can rest. It's all very well to say let go of the past, say let go of the future, but this mental exercise, when done carefully, helps. It helps you let go of your real past and your real future by imagining them as bags you've been carrying for far too long. Now you continue the exercise by gazing down at those 2 bags. The past just by your left leg, your future by your right leg, and you're standing right between those 2. Between the past and the future, there is this amazing place called the present moment. We may have all read The Power of Now by Tolle. This is how you access that power. You're standing between something, the past and the future, having let everything go. Only now can you be present. Remember that present is a place where you can rest. You're not carrying the past, you're not carrying the future. Later on, you will have to pick those bags up. No one takes them away. But now, you deserve to rest in this moment. And please appreciate the few moments where you don't need to bring up memories of the past, where you don't have to plan for the future. Realizing that now is the place your future is made. The present is the only time you can do anything about your future. And if you make this present moment peaceful, kind, and happy, you will find that this moment now will later become your past. And your past will have wonderful memories. You make them now. This is not just where your future is made. This is where your memories are made too. So this is marketing, reinforcing the importance of being here. And please resist the temptation to pick out something from those 2 bags on the ground. Leave them till later. Be free from the prison of the past. Leave the prison of the future and escape into the moment, the only time you ever had. Just like a prisoner walking out of jail, they feel scared. They're not used to life outside. Just like each one of you are not used to life outside the past and outside the future. Just relax and get used to being present. It's a wonderful place of freedom. If you want to be free, be now. I am now going to stop speaking for about 3 minutes to let you enjoy the freedom. Please don't go back into jail. Don't go into the past. Don't go into the prison of the future. Stay free for about 3 minutes. Okay, how did that feel, just being in the moment? Could you stay there? Or did you just go back into jail again because you're used to it? With a little bit of training, you can stay in this moment. It's a beautiful place to be. Okay, you may now open your eyes to finish the meditation. Short. Hopefully later on you can do that for longer. And if ever you have trouble sleeping at night, you can try the shopping bag similes. Imagine those shopping bags of the past and the future. Let them go, put them down, so at least when you're going to sleep at night, you don't carry the past and the future, all the pain of what's happened to you, all the anxiety of what's going to happen tomorrow, into bed with you. So you can sleep peacefully, have a good night's sleep. It works. Now, I did mention during that meditation about how we do have prisons, and I mentioned the prison of the past and the prison of the future. Now, this is an important thing because this, I believe, is one of the reasons, if not the reason, why when I went to teach in prisons, it worked, and the people in jail, they never needed to go into prison ever again, which is an incredible thing to be able to do. Why was that? And I say because every time I went into a jail, I never saw a criminal. I never saw a murderer. I never saw a rapist. I never saw a thief. All I ever saw was people. I saw many people who'd murdered, but never a murderer. I saw many people who'd stolen, but never a thief. I'd seen people who'd raped, but never a rapist. Because sometimes the way that we look at people with our mind, they've murdered and we call them a murderer. Is that fair? What about everything else they did in their life? Can we just define a person because of one act, no matter how terrible that is? And it's so reasonable, it's so logical, but it's also so helpful when you go into a prison and you don't see a criminal there. Now imagine what it's like being in a prison. People wear prison outfits, They're given numbers on them, they're called prisoners, everything reminds them of being a criminal. And because everything is telling them a criminal, they become a criminal. This is the psychology of the way that we associate with what we're told. And they get someone like me comes along, and I hope someone like you, if any of you go visiting people in prison, and if you think that's that murderer, that's that rapist, you are actually making them murder again and rape again. They're taking on that personality. But I'm saying to them, you are not a rapist, you're a person who's raped, you're much bigger than that. You're focusing on the other part of the human being, which hasn't done things wrong. And when you focus on that part of them, they see it in themselves. There was one murderer in the prison close to our monastery. Our monastery is very close to a prison, just down the road. They are our neighbors. And many times people have gone looking for the first time for Bodhinyana Monastery, and they go to the prison instead. Are there any monks here, they ask. In fact, we have a wall, the prison doesn't. Interesting. So which one is a real prison? But anyway, I was told by the prisoners who come and work at our monastery in Jhana Grove, there was one guy there murdered, been in that prison for years, and he read my story about the 2 bad bricks in the wall, which I tell almost every other talk I give, so I'm not going to tell it now. And he said, that's all it is, 2 bad bricks. That's all I am, 2 bad bricks. There are 998 good bricks in me. I am not a murderer. I'm a person, a human being. Done many wonderful things in my life, but also the 2 bad bricks as well. I've murdered, but that's not who I am. A wall with 2 mistaken bricks is not just 2 bad bricks, it's a whole wall. And when he saw that, I realized that guy is now rehabilitated. Because when he sees the good parts in himself, he gets actually self-respect. When you get self-respect, you live up to that and you become a good person afterwards. If you think that you are a murderer, that you are useless, there's no point in you doing anything, you're impossible to be a good person, then you can never do anything good. You've got to believe in yourself to do good things. You've got to see that there's goodness in you to do more good. If all you ever see is badness, you'll just do more badness. So when you actually understand that there's no such thing as a criminal in Changi jail, there's only people who've done crimes, then you are not judging them by just 1 or 2 acts, which is so unfair. And that also means that somebody was asking me afterwards about their child. They said, an ADD child. There's no such thing as an ADD child. There's no such thing as a schizophrenic. There are no psychotics. All there are is people who have psychotic episodes. There are children who suffer ADD experiences. There are people who have schizophrenic episodes, but there's no schizophrenic. Do you see when you give them a name, you judge them as if that's all they are, and that is what they become. Very simple psychology story, which I learned when I was doing training to be a school teacher in the UK. It's a very famous experiment in child psychology. There was a school year, it may be about 12, 13-year-olds, so it wasn't an important year for the children. So these 2 psychologists got permission to do an experiment. At the end of the year exam, they were going to grade the 2 classes for the next year. But instead of publishing the results of the examination, they kept the results secret. But what they did do, the child who came first, together with the child who came 4th and 5th, 8th and 9th, 12th and 13th, 16th and 17th, 20th and 21st, they were put in one class. The children who came second and third, sixth and seventh, 10th and 11th, they went in another class. So they split the two classes as equally as they possibly could, based on the end of the year examinations. And the principal, who was the only other staff member who was in on what was happening together with the two psychologists, chose teachers who they thought were equally competent. Classrooms which had equal facilities. They made everything between these two classes as equal as possible, except for one thing. They called one Class A and the other one Class B. Now, no one knew what was going on. They assumed that the kids who were in Class A were chosen as the top half from the results, and the Class B kids were the bottom half. Now imagine that was your child who came home and said, "Mummy, I'm in Class A next year." And you think, "My goodness, you've never done any homework. I don't know how you did that, but well done." And the children in Class B, even though they work really hard, "You must work harder next year. No privileges, no computer games, extra tutorials. I want you to get into Class A next year." Even the teachers, they thought this was Class A. They taught them at a higher level. The Class B kids, they never expected very much from them. And even the children themselves, they thought, "I'm a Class B kid." Everything reinforced that. And so they gave the examination the next year. And you know what they found out? The Class B children did just as you would have expected if they were the bottom half chosen from the year before. They did so much worse. And the Class A kids, they became Class A children. What had happened in 12 months? They were just the same, equal ability the year before, but because they were called Class A children, they became Class A people. And because they were called Class B, they became Class B. The power of belief reinforced by everything around you for a long period of time, that does change you. So what does that do to people in prison? They become criminals. Simply because everybody tells them. Because they wear criminal clothes. Because they've got to see bars every day. Now that is a problem. At least if you visit prisons, at least don't buy into that. That is not a criminal you see in front of you. That's a person. If you see that, they may be able to see that. When they see the good side of them, it's only 2 bad bricks, it's 998 good bricks, then they're rehabilitated. Which means that when they go out afterwards, I'm not a Class B kid. I'm just a kid who's, been put in Class B. But that does not mean I'm not as good as anybody else. And that is also with the prisons of mental disease as well. Unfortunately, we have a system in all parts of the world. Most mental health professionals will say to your kid, "You're ADD." And that poor kid is treated like they have ADD. His parents say, "You're an ADD kid." And what happens? Class B kids, they become ADD. Even if it's a wrong diagnosis, they will become that. "You're a schizophrenic." They become schizophrenic. Now, I think you can understand the psychology of this. And as a Buddhist monk, you see that so clearly. There's no such thing as a bad meditator. If you think, "I can't do meditation," you won't be able to do it. If you think, "I'm restless, I can't stop my mind," of course you won't be able to do it. You see just how our perceptions create our world and stop us from achieving, growing, doing whatever we wish to do. And I will never forget some years ago when I was invited to the Institute of Mental Health over, in Woodlands, or not Woodlands, but next door to Woodlands, a few years ago, giving a keynote address, and after the keynote address, being invited by the professor who was heading the schizophrenia unit in your country. And it was not just in your country, because they were trying to make it a hub. You know, this is a big word these days, a hub. Get people from all the different countries to come to Singapore, you know, to heal their mental illnesses, because that was cheaper than doing it in your own country and making a bit of income from the Singapore government. Making it a hub. We should have a Buddhist hub in Singapore, okay? Get people coming from all overseas to come to, the temples in Singapore. Why not? But anyway, this guy came up to me afterwards, the head of schizophrenia unit. He said he was a Christian. He said, but I still want you to bless my unit. I said, why? And he said, because I really appreciate what you said. I told the story about going into jails, never seeing a criminal, about the Class A kids and the Class B kids. He said, I really appreciate that. And that's when I asked him, how do you treat schizophrenia in your unit in Singapore? And I'll never forget this. This is almost verbatim, because it hit me and I said, yes. He said, I don't treat schizophrenia in the schizophrenia unit in Singapore. He said, I treat the other part of the patient, just like you told me. Now, in my tradition, I'm not supposed to worship lay people. I can't put my hands up and say, yes, I'm worshiping you. You're supposed to do that to me. But in this case, I broke my rules and I said, you deserve to be worshipped. And I put my hands up to pay respect to this gentleman, simply because I respected his wisdom. He wasn't treating the schizophrenia, he was treating the other part of the patient. And of course I asked him, but I knew with the answer, what is your results? He smiled, better than any conventional treatment. You're very lucky to have people like that in this country. Wise people who see things in a different way and can do things which other people cannot do. Now you can understand what prisons are. Prisons are when we believe that we are schizophrenic. We believe we're a criminal. We believe that we are intellectually inferior. There was one kid in my class. I was teaching maths class at the school. And I looked at this kid's report from the year before. He had come bottom of the class the year before. And I decided to do an experiment. I was trained as a scientist, and I love doing experiments to try things out and see if they work. With this kid, he was bottom of the class the year before in maths. And I decided to give him special attention and encouragement. I do admit it was unfair on all the other kids in the class, because I would go up to him during the lesson, do you understand this? And actually go through it with him, encouraging him, praising him, building him up. And after class, is anything you didn't understand? You can't do that to every kid in the class. I did it just to him. Because I wanted to find out whether it was the case that someone could not do maths or they were bad at maths. You know what happened? He came top in my year. He went from the bottom to the top just because he had some encouragement. I gave him some self-belief that he could do maths. And from that time on, I realized there is no such person in this world who can't play a piano. You can. If you believe it, you will be able to. There's no such person who can't do maths. You can. But people believe this. I am bad at maths. I've got a left brain or a right brain. Look, I guarantee you got both halves. So that when we believe we can't do something, we buy into that belief, and that restricts us in life. And that is a prison we put ourselves into. Some of you, relationships. I'm no good in relationships, and I can't really have a relationship. If you believe that, obviously you're not going to have a relationship. That's why my job as a monk with you guys is keep basically lying to you. So yes, you can. Yes, you can. It's not really a lie, because when you believe it, you do it. So there are many prisons we have in life which actually stops us. And it also creates, when we have that belief, there's one story I've been telling recently. I get these stories and I keep repeating them, and then they disappear for years. But this was again a psychology experiment which was famous at the time. It was done over 100 years ago in Bristol Jail in the UK in 1899. And this shows you just how you get imprisoned by your beliefs. And this was a poor man who had committed a crime and was about to be sentenced to death by hanging. He had been sentenced. The execution was going to happen the next day. And because he was going to die anyway, two psychologists had permission from the government to do this very gross experiment. They went to his cell the night before his execution, which he thought was through hanging, lied to him, said, "The law has been changed. You will still die tomorrow, but you'll have your throat cut." And imagine this poor man, all night thinking the following morning he would have his throat slit and executed. And early in the morning, they came for him, tied his hands behind his back, put on a blindfold, and led him to the place of execution, which actually was the prison washrooms. And one of the psychologists took out one of the old-fashioned razors and drew the blade across his throat, not the sharp end, the dull end, which never even scratched his skin. At the same time, another psychologist turned on one of the taps in the washroom. This man felt steel across his throat, heard liquid coming out. He fell to the ground and died. He died with no physical cause for his death except his belief that he was having his throat cut and that's what he believed was happening. That's why he died. It was a very famous, well-recorded experiment which shows you the power of belief. It can kill you, which is one of the reasons why those perceptions and beliefs become our prisons. I have got cancer, I am going to die. If you think like that, you will die quickly because of that belief. You can see what happened to that guy in jail, but this is actually what happens to you. It's powerful. And with a bit of meditation, you have far more control over those beliefs. You can let go of the stupid ones. The obsessive ones, you can let go. And especially, I mentioned the letting go of the pain of the past. Much of what I was saying is you believe because these things have happened to you before and you take that past to be somehow true and restrictive. I killed someone, therefore I'm a murderer. I've had an episode of mental disorder, therefore I'm psychotic. I've heard voices, therefore I'm schizophrenic. Now, all those things are to do with the past, and when you actually define yourself from the past, what you did in exam before, it means you cannot be free in the present. Which is one of the incredible things when you learn how to meditate and let go of your past. You are free from the restrictions of the past. Yeah, you failed before, but that does not mean you're failing now. The past is a prison where the door is always open and you can walk out any time you want. Many people here in Singapore, the rest of the world, they keep on coming up to monks like me and say, I can't forgive someone, they hurt me, they cheated me, they let me down. How many of you can remember people who let you down? Cheated you, did wrong things to you. Everyone has that. That is your prison. Why on earth can't you let that go and walk away? Why not? It's a crazy attitude human beings have in today's world, always to carry the past. Once I did a simile. Your past is like a coffin containing dead moments which you carry on your head. Some of you have got coffins of dead moments piled hundreds of feet high on top of your head. It's a nice image. No wonder you can't dance in the moment. You're way down. You can't enjoy. Why do you do that? Number one, because you think you should, that you must. When I was in Hong Kong a couple of days ago, I was telling people, look, why do you do that? A lot of times we think, if we made a mistake, if something hurt us, if we did a crime or someone did a crime against us, we must keep thinking about it, because people, they have the myth that you can learn from your past. Have you heard that before? You must learn from your past? That is a myth. Big M, big Y, double F. No TH. It's a myth. You learn much more from the present than you'll ever learn from the past. Have you ever learned from the present moment? How long have you been in the present moment to get to know it and learn from it? What you learn in the present moment is freedom, peace, happiness, life. Life is what's happening now. The past is dead. It's a graveyard of old ideas and old events. Why on earth do you keep trying to recreate and visit the graveyard of your past? People in Singapore are supposed to be afraid of ghosts. Haha, no you're not. The ghost of old memories keeping on haunting you. What your husband did, what your wife did, what happened to you at school, those are ghosts. You should be scared of those. Run away from them, no way. Because they hurt you. Real ghosts never hurt. Those ghosts do hurt. The ghosts, remember Charles Dickens, The Ghost of Christmas Past? And that was actually good, that was wise. So please, if you want to be free, the prison of the past is one of the first jails you can walk out from. It's difficult to walk out from a jail because I mentioned in the talk that real prisoners, when they go out of Changi jail, they are scared. Even though it's not pleasant in those prisons, you get used to it. Now you can accommodate to the institution, the routine, the discipline, being told what to do. In a sense, there's not many worries there. Not many decisions you have to make when you're in prison. Decisions are made for you. You're restricted. But when you walk outside, you have so many responsibilities that people don't like that. They are afraid of freedom, which is why many prisoners, they reoffend because they actually want to get back inside, or they refuse to go outside. Now you can understand why it's so hard to get out of the prison of the past, because you're not used to it. You don't know what it's like to be free. That is why I have to trick you to give you parole. I call meditation parole. You know, just getting out of jail just for 15 minutes or 10 minutes and see what it's like. You know, it's really nice being free. When you did that little experiment or just exercise, putting down the 2 shopping bags, was it nice? Did you enjoy that? You see, that's parole. Give you a taste of freedom. That was the name of one of Ajahn Chah's books. We chose that because it's something which the Buddha mentioned. Vimutta rasa, the taste of freedom. You have to get the taste of freedom first, and then you like it so much you go for the whole meal. You know what it's like when you go to some new food? Give me a taste first of all. Yeah, this is good. Then you go for the whole meal. This is what this little meditation is for. You start with a little taste, and you like it so much, and afterwards you go for the whole feast of freedom. And after a while, you get used to this. Through this meditation, you get used to letting go of the past. And also being free from the prison of the future. How many of you are anxious, have anxiety disorders, going to an interview for a new job, meeting a new boyfriend, going out to the doctor to have a biopsy? Are you free from anxiety, or is anxiety one of your prisons? Sometimes anxiety, fear of the future is such a bad prison for people they don't even bother going for the interview for the job. They're too scared. They don't even want to try to get, a new relationship. When the old one has stopped, they're scared. They just got no courage. And in business, they don't even take any risks. No calculated risks. They're too afraid. And that is called anxiety for the future, and it's a terrible prison to be in. As for me, I live in the present moment most of the time. I don't have anxiety. I haven't got a clue what I'm going to talk about next. None of these talks are planned. Could you do that? Sit here and just start talking, see what happens next? Because you have no fear of the future. You live in the present moment. It's amazing just the amount of stuff which you can do. When you get out of the prison of the future, not worried about what might happen next. You're not afraid of death. You're not afraid of failure. You're not afraid of what people might talk about you. That's all in the future. Who cares about that? You live right now, where life is happening. And you find it's far more exciting. I live a very exciting life as a monk. You're laughing. Why do you laugh? People think I must be boring as a monk. All these rules you have to keep. You can't do this, you can't do that. That's why they call them nuns. None of this, none of that. Silly joke, but it was time for something funny. I was getting too serious. But people think being a monk is just so oppressive. Many of you have seen me many times before. Do I look like I'm oppressed? Do I look like I'm just all bound up and tight? Hopefully you see that I'm one of the freest human beings you've probably seen. Well, how can you be so free when you have all these rules you've got to keep, and you've got to live in monasteries, you can't do this, you can't do that? You see, it's freedom by being in the moment, in the present moment. Fear the future, not anxious, I don't care what's going to happen. I'll deal with it. That's if you don't want to know how you do that, good, bad, who knows, story, whatever happens. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad. Who knows? So when you don't know what the future's going to be, how on earth can you be afraid of it? You go out to speak to somebody about a proposition for a new bit of business. How do you know, good, bad? Who knows if it's going to work? Give it a try. In Hong Kong, I should share it with you guys as well, because there's a huge number of competition between Hong Kong and Singapore. A new line of business. Because girls were always complaining, the boys were always forgetting things. Forgetting anniversaries, forgetting dinner appointments, forgetting this. So, we looked up, and no one's got this website yet, remindyourboyfriend.com. So the girls, they can type in, so the reminder, they got the boyfriend's email number, and it automatically reminds him when it's your birthday, anniversary, when you need flowers. Because isn't it the case, boys keep forgetting things? Is that true? Well, how about starting a website? Remindyourboyfriend.com. It's actually available, someone checked. And you can make a lot of money that way. And if anyone does that, remindyourboyfriend.com. All the girls thought that's a great idea. And it comes from a monk, for goodness sake. How do I think of all these things? I also thought of, in Singapore, now this is a Buddhist congress, how about having Mac Buddhas? Mac Buddhas? Drive-in temples. How many people have got time to go to a temple these days? So you go drive in. You drive in, you've got this big menu, chanting for marriage, girlfriends, sickness, mothers, grandfathers, deaths or whatever. So you can actually press whatever you want. Counseling, marriage again, kids, relationships, or just work, boss. You can press a button there, and then you go to the next window, and then they ask, do you want holy water with that? If you say yes, the little nozzle comes out and sprays you. And you get, because all the advice is always the same. I keep repeating myself because the advice is the same. So you get the same, on a recorder, you put some headphones on, you get that, and then you go to the last window and give your ang pao. Why not? It's busy life. So that's Monk Buddhas. And I get all these ideas. And why the heck do I get these ideas? Because I'm innovative, because I'm not restricted by the past or the future. You're free and you get free ideas. And a lot of happiness and joy when you think stupid things like that. Now you can see we're so imprisoned. But one of the biggest prisons which we have, which, now I teach this first of all for meditation, but this is for your life. Because when I couldn't go to prisons anymore, because I do have lots of other things to do, and sometimes you go into prison, you teach 6 or 7 people, and you can come here and teach, how many, 200 people? So I've got to look at sort of how I can get the best bang for my bucks, how I can get the best spread for the teachings you give. So that's why it's hard to go to small groups when there's big groups who can get much more benefit. So I stopped going to one of these prisons, sent another monk. He went there for about 6 sessions, and then on the 7th session they invited him to stay behind. Just for for half an hour. They got some tea for him, some cheese, some chocolate, all those things which monks can have if they really need them. And they wanted to find out who this guy really was. And so they started socializing with him. And they started asking him, what's it like in a Buddhist monastery in Australia? What do you guys do? Because that's a question. You see me here, when you go to your monastery, how do you live? What do you do? And that's when he started giving a brief description of life in a Buddhist monastery in Australia. Starting off, we get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And that shocked the prisoners. I'm sure even in Changi Jail you don't get up at 4, do you? In my monastery you do. Actually, you don't always, because I always say that getting up at 4 o'clock in Bodhinyana Monastery in Perth is optional. It is optional. You can always get up earlier if you want to, but not later. That's it. That's the only option. And then he asked, what do you do next? Can you watch the TV? Can you watch the late night movie? So no, we don't have TVs in a monastery. We meditate. Okay, fair enough. I can understand that. You're monks, you meditate. But then what do you have for breakfast? Now, many of you have come to the monastery in Perth. You've seen the breakfast we have. Just most days, I just have there's a cup about this big with some porridge, and that's it. Nothing else. And these prisoners say every day in prison, you can get bacon and eggs, fried eggs, eggs Benedict, scrambled eggs. You can have sausages, you can have tomatoes, you can have pancakes or waffles, you can have fruit, you can have muesli, whatever you want. Is that all you guys get? Yeah. So what do you do afterwards? And I said, we work really hard. And of course, you've seen me doing that as well. Even I do laboring work. And I enjoy that. It's great, with all the other monks, you're pushing a wheelbarrow full of concrete. It's nice being part of everything. And even though I'm a big monk, in many ways, it's good to do exercise. So we work really hard. And I always like telling the story that once that I was working on the building site. It saves a lot of money, so your donations get well used. Working on a building site, getting all covered with concrete. Boys being boys. Boys like getting dirty. It's our character. It's in our genes, a dirty gene. I've got that, in abundance. So getting all really dirty and walking back to my the room to get a shower, and I saw this Sri Lankan girl. Sri Lankans are Buddhist. And she was a high-class Sri Lankan, because you can tell her sari, makeup, and all these bangles. They have it in India and Sri Lanka, they have all these bangles on their wrists. And I joke, and this is no exaggeration, she had so many bangles on her wrist that when she was walking towards me, I thought it was an ice cream truck coming. Jingle, jingle, jingle. It was really over the top. And she came up to me, and she said, I'm looking for Ajahn Brahm. Where's Ajahn Brahm? Can I find Ajahn Brahm? And I was smart enough, I thought very quickly, I said, well, Well, if you go to that hall over there, he'd probably be there in about 10 or 15 minutes. And I like playing around. So she went to the hall. I had showered and got changed, went to the hall and talked to her for about half an hour. And after talking to her about Buddhism, meditation for about half an hour, she was really impressed. And she said, "That's really amazing. You're a very good monk, Ajahn Brahm, and this is a beautiful monastery, except," she said, "on the way here, I saw one of your monks, and he was very badly dressed. He was all dirty." She never realized it was me. And of course, I was playing up to this, and I said, "Really, madam? Oh, that's terrible. I will talk to him afterwards." And I don't do talk to myself. The same guy, okay? It's me. But I do work really hard, okay? And then we have lunch. I said, "What do you have for lunch?" If you've been over to monastery, you see we eat out of one bowl, and all the food goes into the same bowl over in Bodhinyana Monastery. And I always like, it's only about 6 months ago, strawberry ice cream on top of spaghetti. Sometimes you like saying that. I remember one of the first time I went to Angie's house, remember that? You made me an English meal. And I put everything in a bowl, including, I think it was the custard or whatever, on top of roast beef or something, I don't know what it was. And she was disgusted, and quite likely. I know you said I upset you some years ago. Was that the time because she went to so much trouble, and I put everything all in one bowl. It all got mixed up. But it gets mixed up inside anyway, just mix it up outside. Save time. And they said, even in solitary confinement, they give you a tray with different compartments. It's disgusting in your monastery. So what do you do after lunch? Yeah, we actually meditate. And can't you play sport, you guys? We don't play sport because we're compassionate. We're always, intentionally, we'll lose. We don't want to harm other people, disappoint them. Even playing tennis, make sure that, we just hit the ball out so they're happy. So we don't play sport, we meditate. Okay, yes. What time do you have dinner? Dinner? Theravada monks don't have dinner. Our meal at lunchtime is the last meal of the day. Strawberry ice cream on spaghetti, and that's it till tomorrow. And they said, wow, that's amazing. In prison, you wouldn't believe what you can eat. Vegetarian if you want, vegan, meat, every type of food you can get there. Asian food you can get, noodles, dim sum, whatever you want in prison you can get. So we don't get anything. And what do you do afterwards in the evening? Can you play poker? No, we meditate. What time do you go to bed? I usually go to bed about 10 o'clock. But actually, they say, what time do you go to bed? This monk said, we don't have beds, which is true. I sleep on the floor. No beds? No TV, no evening meal, working really hard. And they said to this monk, that's terrible in your monastery. And one of them, because it's more hard, more austere in a Buddhist monastery in Australia than any prison. Prisons are very soft compared to monasteries. And they were very disappointed that their monk, who they got to like, they really cared for him, that one of the men, the prisoner, said something we would never forget. Forgetting where he was, the prisoner said, that's terrible in your monastery, that's so harsh in your monastery. Why don't you come in here and stay with us instead? And he had a point. But when he came back and told us all, we finished laughing. That is where I started to think, what is the difference between a prison and a monastery? There's only one difference. It's not how comfortable it is or how austere it is. The only difference is in a monastery, people want to be there. In a prison, you don't want to be there. That's the only difference. And when I realized that, I realized how many prisons we have in our world. Any place you don't want to be is a prison for you. If you're in a marriage, a relationship, and you don't want to be in it, your relationship's a prison. If you're in a job you hate, you don't like going to work every morning, your job is a prison. If you're in a body which is sick, it's got problems, it's aching, it's in pain, it's getting old, your body becomes a prison for you. Or if you're in a temple listening to a talk and you want to be home, this temple is a prison. Poming prison. Now, how do you escape from the prisons you make in life? You do not need to go and leave and go home to escape from this prison. You don't even need to change your partner, your job. You don't even need to get healthy. All you need to do to escape from the prisons of life is to want to be here, rather than wanting to be somewhere else. That is how you escape from a prison. If you are in Changi and you're happy to be there, it's not a prison anymore. There was this very well-known monk in Thailand. I think it was, I forget now. Suwadin knows him. He was a very good monk. He was also a very gifted administrator. He was next in line to be the Sangharaja of Thailand. But the next one in line, the second in line, not the one who was top in line, was jealous of him and realized that if this monk was not gotten rid of, this next monk would never become Sangharaja. And he really Sangharaja means the head monk in Thailand. He was really egotistic. He just really wanted to be the head monk. So he went through a number of this monk's recorded talks, edited them, and accused him of being a communist. This was about, 40 years ago, 45 years ago, accused him of being a communist. And there was enough evidence from the talks to convict him and send this monk to jail. And the monk was in jail for about 2 years. And the Sangharaja died, and this guy who set him up became the new head monk of Thailand. And it was weird that the new head monk of Thailand, he was going, I think either from Don Mueang Airport, the old airport, into Bangkok, or the other way around. But on that road to the airport, a car coming in the opposite lane, the opposite direction, lost control, slammed into the car carrying this head monk. It was a convoy of police cars, but slammed into his car just where he was sitting, and this head monk was killed. No one else was injured. Now when that happens, many people say, this is weird. How come only one person was killed, no one else was injured? This must be karma. And they look back upon what this head monk had done, and they looked at the trial again, and realized that this monk had been set up, put in jail for something he didn't deserve. And so they released him from jail. So this really good monk, who was in jail for a couple of years, he wrote a book about it. The best couple of years of my life. There I was in jail, I could meditate whenever I wanted. Got much better food than I got in the temple. Could read, and there was no one to come and bother me, inviting me to their house to do chanting or asking questions about their marriage. And when I read that book, I thought, that's a monk. That's someone I'd really admire. He was put in the prison, but it wasn't a prison for him, because he wanted to be there. Now, the prisons you have in your life, when you're at work tomorrow morning, ask yourself, do I want to be here? You're stuck, you have to be there, okay? So you might as well want to be there. And then you're actually free. You feel this great freedom. I remember this, I was in Indonesia, I'm going there again next month. And so many people know me in Indonesia. And I give these talks, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people. And they have all my books translated into Bahasa. And they're really, really popular. They are number one bestsellers in Indonesia. And that's true, isn't it, E1? You can see that in the bookshops. They have cut out cardboard lifestyle models of me in the bookshops next to Ajahn Brahm's section in the bookshops. So when I go there to give talks, they always make up a new book every time, and I have to sign it. Now, you see me signing books here in Singapore. This is nothing compared to what happens in Indonesia. One occasion, 2 hours, a whole line of people, and they're really stretching more than I could see, with their books, sign the books, smile for the camera, sign another book, sign a book, sign a book. After an hour of that, I put myself in prison. I thought to myself, I don't want to be here. Why am I doing this? I never signed up as a monk to do this. I'm a meditator. I want to go to my cave. I want to be still. I want to be alone. I never want to become a monk to do this. But I was smart enough to realize, you just made a prison, Ajahn Brahm. And that's why I was suffering. And as soon as you realize that, that's a prison. It's very easy to escape from that suffering. I said, no, I'm going to be here. It's a wonderful thing to give joy and happiness to other people. And I really did smile then. It wasn't fake anymore. And I enjoyed the next hour. Went by very quickly. I was very happy. Why? Because I wanted to be there. Another time I went invited to Japan, to this Buddhist summit. And they put me up in a 6-star hotel. 6-star, not the 5-star ones, 6 stars. And I was in this room. It had a jacuzzi, really state-of-the-art jacuzzi, which I didn't know how to use. I didn't know what button to press. Never used one before. It had a big, really wide screen TV in every room. I didn't know how to turn it on. They had a little area for Japanese tea. I didn't know how to do that. A mini bar. It wasn't a mini bar. It was a maxi bar. All the stuff in there. Again, which I couldn't use. And I was stuck in there for 3 hours. They left me in there while they were doing some other ceremony. And after 2 hours in that, I was really getting upset. I don't want to be in here with all this stuff I can't use. This is so worldly. I want to be in a simple hut in a cave or something. And again, I realized that a room in a 6-star hotel can easily become a prison. Because I just did not want to be there. That was my problem. So it does not matter where you are. In a 6-star hotel, it can still be a prison for you. In this incredible job, it can still be a prison. With an amazing partner, it's still a prison because you don't want to be there. Now you understand the prisons of life. Every time I don't want to be there, you're in prison. If you want to escape from prison, life is really weird. You have to do some strange things which you never signed up for at work, in a family, in this human life. Strange things with your body, the sicknesses and stuff. Please want to be there when you have cancer. It's not to be missed. If you've got a partner who's giving you a hard time, want to be there. You learn a lot. It's your enemies become your teachers. That's where you learn the most from. And you want to be here, whatever it is. When you're in the traffic jam, stuck, going nowhere. If you want to be there, you have all the freedom in the world. Much of life you can't change. Except your attitude you can change. That is a trick for freedom. And especially in the last weeks and days and hours of your life. Please remember this teaching. Your body is falling apart, but it doesn't need to be a prison. Your mind may be experiencing pain, but you can still be free. Wherever you are in life, especially the difficult parts of life, please want to be here. And then you are free from prison. So, we're going to know another 10-minute meditation. And I'm going to ask you, no matter what's happening, want to be here. You've got sleepiness, want to be here. Your mind is running all over the place, want to be here. Whatever the mind is doing, don't make a prison. Okay, so let's sit down. It's only 10 minutes, and then we'll do some Q&A. Now close your eyes. Now I'm going to ask you, where do you want to be? Do you want to be home? Do you want to be in the toilet? If you want to be home, you want to be in the toilet, you're planning the future, you're not here, you're not meditating. If you're off in the past, you're escaping from this present. You don't want to be here. That's why past and future are prisons. So where are you? Want to be here. If you're cold, want to be cold. If you're thinking, want to be thinking. Give this a try. If you're itchy, want to be itchy. What's it like when you want to be here? If you're sick, want to be sick. What's it like when you don't fight this moment? When you don't attack the truth of now? You may not be comfortable, but a monastery isn't comfortable, but we want to be there. That's why we're happy. Never believe you have to be comfortable to be free. This body is aching. It may be stiff. But as long as you don't want it to be different, you are totally free and at peace, with nothing to do, because there's nowhere to go. You hear the noise of the traffic or the air conditioner. Want to hear it. Don't be concerned about how many minutes have gone by, how many minutes are left. That shows you don't want to be here. When you want to be here, not only are you free, you are content. All this is letting go of craving, letting go of wanting, making peace with whatever you're experiencing right now, wanting to be here. It is opening the door of your heart to this moment, no matter how it feels. That's wanting to be here. It's freedom. It's unconditional love to whatever you're experiencing right now. And if you're falling asleep, want to fall asleep, please don't fight it. We will wake you up after the meditation. If you've got some mental disability, want to have it. Let it be. Be kind to it. When you want to be here, there's no more problem. And anyway, who said it was a disability? Who said you were a Class B person? Don't believe that. Just want to be here, and you can be anything. This is called letting go meditation. Letting go of all wanting. No desire. Just being here. Because you want to be here. There's no other place in the whole world you want to be, except right here. If you can experience that, you're a very content person. And very wise. To end suffering, don't try and go somewhere else. End suffering here, by wanting to be here, just like this. And all the prisons of the world dissolve in your taste of freedom. Okay, it's time to open the eyes again to finish off. It was actually 12 minutes, went fast. There we go. Hope that was an interesting experience for you. Now when I do these things, wanting to be here, please understand it doesn't mean you meditate 24 hours a day. This is what you do to be free and to have some relaxation to meditate. Please, in another half hour, please don't want to be here. Please go home. Okay, now we have Q&A? Yes. So, now is your time to question, argue, challenge, make it interesting. You've got a question at the back, first of all, please. Go for exercise, Angie. Run, 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 run. Very fast, gets you fit.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Ajahn Brahm.
Hi, is that your question?
Yes, but I have another one. So I just want to ask you, not looking back on the past, on hurt being done by other people, I can understand that. But we are creatures of habit and bad habits and patterns, and I think to reflect and sometimes to change for the better, we do need to look back into the past. To change for the better, to recognize ourselves and our own pattern. What do you think about that?
There's two things there. We always have this idea of changing for the better, improving ourselves. And I've been telling people again and again the last month, one of my other stories, please have a walk in a forest, anywhere in Singapore. Can you improve on the trees which you see in the forest? Can you straighten them for me and make sure they're not leaning to the left or the right, they're not crooked? Can you please make sure that all the branches are in the right place and there's no brown leaves on the twigs? If you do, you would spoil that forest. Every tree in a forest is damaged goods. That's why it's a beautiful forest. Sometimes we want to improve ourselves, and we make ourselves worse. If we accept ourselves, then we become beautiful. It's a psychology of self-improvement, and all we ever do is self-damage. Be careful of trying to improve yourself. In Buddhism, we learn how to love and accept ourselves as we are, and then the improvement happens. Not when we're seeking it. And the other thing, habits. Where is the only time you can change a habit? If you put more attention to what you're doing now, you can actually see, right now, where you go wrong. You won't see that in the past. You see that in the present. You can see yourself wanting that cigarette. You can see yourself picking it up. If you're in the moment, you can change. If you're in the past, you repeat bad habits. Now, this is not what you expect to hear, which is one of the reasons hopefully you come here, because you're not hearing what you expect to hear. You're experiencing hearing things which challenge you, which actually work, which is one of the reasons guys like me change psychology. Why many of my stories on Harvard Business School blog. Why this stuff actually works. Psychology these days, they get their information from guys like me. And I keep seeing this in Hong Kong and other places. Oh, this new method. I taught that years ago, and I actually did teach that. I was at this festival in Perth, just a month or two ago. And the mayor of Perth came up because she was opening it, and she said, I just heard the only reason you have stress is because you hold a cup for too long and you don't put it down. Now, you know where that came from, don't you? At that conference we did, we had talking about modern psychology techniques. A guy in Sydney, he said the problem with you guys is you put the hand close to your eyes, so all you see is your hand. If you put it in the right place at the end of your arm, the hand is the same, you can see everything else. This is your cancer, your death, your grief, your problem. The real thing is, it's nothing to do with improving the world or improving yourself. You're just holding the fault too close to yourself. If you put it where it belongs, the end of the arm, you still got the fault, but you can see so much more else. And I've been teaching that for years. And now this Jojo from Sydney is making his reputation and fortune from this. They get it from guys like I, and this is actually challenging, which I hopefully is. If you ever come to a lecture and you hear what you already know, you've wasted your time. I'm challenging you.
If you allow me to have one more question.
Yeah, go.
Good, bad, who knows?
Yeah.
I can apply that when things happen to me. Yeah. What about choices? If you make choice A, good, bad, who knows? Choice B, now, good, bad, who knows?
Here's another thing, choices. We get so confused and afraid of choices. How do you make a choice? In that book, I mentioned how you make choices, important choices. These are really crucial choices in your life, in your career. And the story is, I will never forget this experience. I was in Oslo University giving a talk, and this girl said, I've got an important choice to make in life. How do I make that choice? And be careful of asking monks, because sometimes we know more than you think you're talking about. So I said to her, I shouldn't have done this. I apologized to her. I said, well, let's make this more concrete. Say the choice is, should you marry that boy sitting next to your boyfriend? I shouldn't have said that, because that's the question she was asking. And she went bright red in front of everybody. She was so embarrassed, because she was thinking of, marrying her boyfriend, and the boyfriend didn't really know yet. And, I told him, so it's very embarrassing. But I said, that's the question. Should I marry my boyfriend or not? How do you make that choice? Toss a coin. Heads, I marry him. Tails, I don't. Now you think Ajahn Brahm's being stupid here, but there's more to it than that. Toss a coin, you make heads, I marry him, tails, I don't. It comes up heads. How do you feel? Do you feel inside yourself, yes? Or do you feel, 2 out of 3? If you feel 2 out of 3, it's telling you don't want to marry him. If it's feel yes, it means you do. The whole point of tossing the coin is finding out from your reaction how you feel. Finding out what you really want to do. Your intuition. And it's not just with women's intuition. Men have that as much as women do. That has been proven in psychology experiment after psychology experiment to be far more reliable than thinking about it. If you have to make a decision, for goodness sake, don't think about it. Feel it. And it's just one skillful means of finding out how you feel. You can just imagine just going through this scenario, and how does that grab you? Is that really what you want to do? Go through the opposite scenario. How does that grab you? Which is intuitively the thing that you think is the right thing to do? But for goodness sakes, don't think about it. That will confuse the hell out of you and waste a lot of time. That's why tossing a coin is great. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Can you sign my coin?
Sign your coin. Ha ha ha. I'll think about it. Give me a coin. Heads, I'll sign it. Tails, I don't. Yeah, go on.
Hi, Ajahn Brahm. How do we detach ourselves from negative experiences that we have participated in?
Okay, how do you detach yourself? Number one, soften them with kindness, first of all. Now, I developed this technique because I know my body's getting old now, and it's getting sick and tight, and there's ache here, there's an itch there. And if I'm meditating and I want to let my body go so I can just focus on my mental world, I can't just tell my knee, you sit there, don't do anything, shut up. It won't go away that way. That's just like the past. If you just say, let it go, don't bother me anymore, it doesn't go away. So first of all, I give that ache, that pain, a lot of kindness and care until it gets soft. So any pain, ache, irritation in your body, soften it first of all, and then you can let it go. And that's exactly what you do to the past or the future. Soften the past. How do you soften the past? You've done something really stupid and bad. Be kind to yourself. We all make mistakes. You may have been sick. You may have been in a sort of a bad situation between a rock and a hard place. Give yourself a break. Cut yourself some slack. People do make mistakes. When you soften that past with such thoughts, it makes it easier to let it go. Someone else did something wrong. They must have been in a bad state. I don't know why they did that, but they may have had their reasons. They may have misunderstood what was going on. Maybe they didn't do it on purpose. Maybe they were afraid. So I give people the benefit of the doubt if they've hurt me. I soften them. And when I soften the past, with a kindness, benefit of the doubt, looking at things and saying, well, maybe they had a reason for it. When I soften it, it's not this hard anger or this hard guilt because I'm not so sure. Then it's very easy or much easier to let it go. And the same as anxieties for the future. I'm very worried about, the stock market. I'm very worried about climate change. And you get so hard and so anxious about things. If it's really tough and hard, it's so difficult to let it go. So soften it. There was one amazing experience when I went to give a retreat once in England in the New Forest. That's north of Southampton. And I saw the sign, the history of this. They called it New Forest. Because if you know some English history, when I think the Spanish Armada was coming, they cut down all the trees in this huge forest to build ships, to fight the Spanish in these wars the Brits had with the Europeans. They're always going to war. And They needed the wood, and a whole forest got cut down. But the Brits, that was, you can know when it was, maybe 300-400 years ago, but the Brits decided to replant it. And now you have this forest which is beautiful, it's natural, you couldn't tell the difference between that forest and sort of an old growth forest. It's been 400 years or something. And when I saw that, it gave me a lot of hope that there was an ecological destruction of a whole forest under many, many square miles, maybe 100 square miles, I don't know, 200 square miles of forest cut down to get ships from the military, replanted, and now you wouldn't know the difference between an old growth forest and this forest. It's gorgeous. And that gave me hope that, whatever ecological disasters we make, with effort and care and skill and initiative, we can get it back again. Now that, to me, softens the fear of climate change. It may be misplaced, but at least it makes it less hard, less of a problem, and when you soften things, you get more solutions possible. So I say, give some kindness, compassion to past and future. The idea, how can you be kind to something as hard to pin down as the future or the past? You can be kind to a dog, stroking it. You can cuddle your cat. You have a teddy bear, you can be compassionate to a teddy bear, but it's taking that whole emotion of kindness and applying it to places you've never done before, like your past. Be kind to it, and it softens it. And when it softens, it's easy to let go. So that is a little method for your future and past. And you'll probably find in about 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, psychologists in Singapore will be charging a lot of money to say, soften your past. They will. Does that make sense to you? Give it a try and see what happens. Yeah? Oh, yeah.
Okay, Ajahn. So I guess just now the question was about how do you let go of things, I guess, detach from negative things that you've participated in the past. And so my question has to do with, I guess, what if you've engaged in an action which inherently isn't sort of wrong, but in the eyes of people who you love or care for you, sort of results in suffering in them because of their pre-existing judgments or, I guess, biases about the action. I guess, the question is how do you
accept that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Remember, I think, who was it, Roosevelt, who said you can please all of the people some of the time, some of the people all the time. You can't please all your parents all your time. So you're not going to be able to do that. That's life, okay? Whatever you do is going to disappoint some other people. And if you do what other people want you to do, it will disappoint you. So there's always that balance. So welcome to life. You're going to hurt many people in your life. But if you add it all up, and you've hurt a few people, but you've helped a lot of people, and the net result is positive, well done, you've lived a wonderful life. So please, if you run your life because you're concerned what other people think of you, and I'm talking here about parents especially, sometimes some of the parents, they love you, they don't understand, they have to free you. And sometimes you just have to go against the will of your parents, just like the Buddha did. And that turned out okay. And in the end, your parents come around. Come on, exercise, Angie. Yeah, another question? Yeah. It's 25 past, so we've got another question. Maybe one more question and we finish off? Because you guys have to go to work tomorrow. So do I. You are lucky. You only work 6 days a week, 5 days. How many days a week do you work? 5. Only 5? I never stop. There's not a day when I don't give a talk somewhere, or even if I don't have to give a talk, I'm pretty sure I give a lecture during my sleep, talking in my sleep. Yeah, go on.
Hi, Ajahn Brahm. You talk about escaping from the prison of our mind. presumably there's an element of choice and determination involved in that choice to want to be there, as you put it. But is there any ways that could facilitate making that choice to be present in a very challenging environment, clearly?
Yeah, sometimes this is how you train yourself in easy environments, like just sitting here. I just did a meditation for 10 minutes. Now, why can't you just be here for 10-minute meditation? You've got nothing to do. So you train yourself to be present in easy situations. And then, when it really gets important, you find it's easy to do. I was telling people at the Chinese University in Hong Kong last night, that, the story of when I did my final examinations at Cambridge. 3-hour examination in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 days in a row, natural sciences, crazy stuff, 1972. It would be, if Amnesty International had found out, they'd have taken Cambridge University to the Court of Human Rights and put them in jail. That was told, you can't do things like, well, they did do it. 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, an hour for lunch, 6 days in a row. Me, that was tough. My lunch hour, I didn't have any lunch. I meditated, present moment awareness, just being here. Wanting to be here rather than wanting to be in the past, thinking of my old exams, what I did that morning. Or even worrying about the exam which is going to come up in half an hour's time. I realized if I did that, I would be getting more tired and ruining the opportunity to rest. To me, it was so important to be here, because that's the only place I could rest, energize my brain to perform well later on. It was so important for me. And because I trained, I could do that. Okay, your lunch hour, 3-hour exam in the morning, done. You can't change it. The exam paper's handed in. You made a mistake, you did it right, it's too late now. How many of you can stop worrying about it? Even though you know it's a stupid thing to do, you just can't stop because it's a bad habit. Another exam coming up in half an hour's time, how many of you can stop worrying about it? Even though you know, if I worry about it, I'm going to use up energy in my brain, I'm not going to perform well afterwards. I knew that now was really important because here I could energize, relax, get my brain going again, basically recharge it. That makes sense, but how many of you can actually do that? I could do that because I trained in meditation early on. So when you do it when it's easy, when it really is important for you, you find it's a very simple thing to do. So train when it's easy. So when you really need to be here, when you can't escape, you're not in prison.
Okay, final question. Okay, thanks.
Hi, Ajahn Brahm. Thank you for your teaching. I would like to ask, how would you advise a person to approach their parents? What approaches would you suggest me to take to persuade my parents to go for medical checkup and to approach new health practices such as Qigong, because given that they are very stubborn and unwilling to step out of their comfort zone and to know that, I have this health issue, so they are so how would you advise?
Okay, but you have to use psychology. Straight away, parents throughout the world, not just in China, would not listen to their daughter. So, because they're your parents, they teach you. Now, I could not teach my mother Buddhism or meditation. No way could I do that. Even though I'm a famous teacher, I can teach thousands of people, but not my own mother. Other monks could, easy, but not me. Because, she gave birth to me. She nurtured me when I was really small. And that psychology, that sort of role cannot be changed. So your mother will never listen to you. So you can go roundabout. Find a friend of your mother or father, someone they respect. If your mother and father, say, were members of the BF, came here, you ask me, and I tell them to go for health check. because that works. You've got to find your parents' weak point and leverage it. I love telling the story of this guy in Perth. This was the other way around. His son was staying up late at night, going out with his girlfriend. The grades at university were going down, down, down. It was really a danger that he might get kicked out of university. And no matter what his mother or father said, he just ignored them. So his father was smart. He found his son's weak point. He waited up late at night until he came back with his girlfriend about 1 a.m. He was waiting outside the house for them, and they were shocked he was standing there waiting for them. He asked them both, come in. The son was terrified. What are you doing? You're embarrassing me, Dad. But he never talked to his son. He talked to his son's girlfriend. And said to the girlfriend, he said, you've been going out for quite a while now. I don't know where your relationship is, but, it may happen that you really commit. And, who knows? You might eventually get married. It's not there yet, but it may happen. And I just thought I would let you know that my son's grades are going down. He's probably going to get kicked out of university if he doesn't stop. Would you like to marry someone who hasn't got a degree? And the girl said, no! I want a guy who's got a good job and a good... I never realized that. Oh, I just thought I'd let you know. And then the father went to bed, and that was it. It was the girl made sure he got home early. The girl was always on his case. What were your grades? Have you got the assignment in yet? And this poor boy, he wouldn't listen to his parents, but he had to listen to his girlfriend. That was the weak point. So, in life, remember that sometimes people won't listen to you, but there's always one person they listen to. Find out who that is, and then leverage. So it may be, your grandparents has a lot of power over your mother. You go to the grandparent goes to your mum.
Okay, thank you.
That's sneaky Buddhism.